So today I want to talk about Assassin's Creed Origins. It is one of the most beloved games in the franchise as of late, following the Ezio trilogy and Black Flag, of course. Now, I understand why people can love Origins, and today I wanted to sort of go over, what I think about the game myself. What do I think of the story? What do I think of the game in terms of like a design, standpoint, right? And what I think of the game in the overall spectrum of the series, where it stands in the franchise in terms of how it sort of develops its lore and also pays homage to the games that came before it. So let's begin before we sort of get into the story and everything of the game. Let's start with just what the reason why you buy a game. You buy a game to play it, right? So let's begin with the design standpoint. Now you might notice I don't have any Origins gameplay on screen right now, and that's because I am not gonna go and record gameplay for this game because I don't want to play this game. So that should give you a hint of what I sort of think about this game. But you know what? Let's not just end this here. I want to talk about this a little bit more. So the game from a design standpoint, from a game design standpoint, so it tried to emulate a lot of things that The Witcher did, but since this is a Ubisoft game, it had to sort of hold your hand. So when you look at the world, the exploration of the world, right? You have question marks around the map, uh, which is fantastic. Great, you have question marks, which give you no reason to explore anywhere else apart from where you're meant to, go. Because how the exploration works in this game is you go into an area, and so the map is completely sort of fogged in the beginning, and synchronization does not reveal areas of the map, which I think is a good thing because I was getting way too old, to be honest. So synchronization just helps with Senu's perception, which is your eagle, and yeah, whatever, that doesn't really matter. But it also unlocks fast travel points, that's good. We like fast travel points because when you make such big games, you kind of need fast travel points. So, from an exploration standpoint, the world has a lot to offer in the sense that it looks great on paper. Everything just looks amazing. Ancient Egypt is beautiful. I think this rendition of the game looks fantastic. However, they did miss out on a lot by choosing this specific time period. If they had set the game a little bit further back, say 2000 BCE, around the time when the pyramids were being built, or just further back from like maybe 1000 BCE, or much before that, because since we don't have as many historical records of that time, the developers would have had more sort of freedom with where they took the open world of the game, and it wouldn't have just been like a recreation of ancient Egypt a couple hundred or like 1,000 years ago. It would have been something much more different, something much more unique, and you can see this in the concept art that I'll put on the screen now. And the initial concept, the idea of Origins, was, I think, just fantastic. I think when they had Darby McDevitt on board and they were going to make this game according to his vision, I think it would have been really, really good. However, there were a lot of development issues that happened during the time of the making of this game, which I won't get into in this video. But because of that, Darby McDevitt left, and they had to get a different writer on, and the game was a mess in terms of development because there was just a lot of different things happening, and no one exactly knew where anything was going. So yeah, so we were talking about the world, right? I don't know why I got sidetracked there, but uh, you go into an area essentially. So let's say I go into Siwa right now in Valhalla, which came out a few years later, 3 years later, made by the same team that made Origins. I think Valhalla is a significant improvement in terms of exploration because it doesn't it's not like it puts you in the middle of the map and just says, all right, so now you go and clear the whole map. It doesn't That's not what you do in Valhalla. Valhalla starts off by giving you a few hints. You have the blue or the white or the golden dots, right? And those dots just don't appear all over your map. These will appear as you explore the world, interact with people, and come across maybe like letters or clues, anything. The world is vast and dynamic, and it is deep. Whereas in Origins, everything it tries to be deep, but I think it's more like a surface level game. The world, at least, you don't have much in the way of exploration. Everything you see on the map is that's all there is. You open the map, you pause the game, you open the map, you look at everything, and you don't even need to explore the world because there's nothing beyond what the map shows you. Everything is laid out on the map, which I think if they had removed all the question marks, I think that would have made the world a little bit more enjoyable to explore because you wouldn't know what to expect. So you would go out and you would actually have a reason to go somewhere other than just going out there to clear your map because that's what happens essentially when you're in the third act, when you're close to the final act of the game. You have no reason at all to explore the world because everything you've on the process of playing the game, you've seen everything by that point. So there's really no reason for you to go out and explore. And because of that, I think what happens is when you finish the game, there's still a huge part of the map that you just haven't been to because you have no reason to go there because there's nothing there to see, and even if there was anything to see, you pretty much have an idea of what it could be. It could be a stone circle, whatever. You don't really care because the question mark will tell you what it is. I mean, if the question mark, for example, if the question mark is glowing, right, it has like this weird like golden effect over it, then it could be one of three or four, two or three things basically, right? It could be the the war elephants, the mini bosses, whatever. It could be the stone circles, or it could be one of the first Civ tombs. It could be one of those three things. That's it. So apart from that, if you're looking for one of these three things, then all you have to do is go to one of these glowing question marks because they will always be on your map. It's not like the game tries to hide any of these things from you. The map is very predictable. The world design is very predictable, and from a gameplay standpoint, this world is very how do I say this? There's not it's more grounded. It's more grounded, so to say, in reality when compared to what they initially wanted to do with this game, which was set it further back in time, but actually have verticality to the map because there were no records essentially of what ancient Egypt must have looked like, maybe 2-3 thousand years ago, and that would have given them the freedom to do what they wanted. Except they chose 49 BCE because Cleopatra and Ashraf Ismail, whatever. Now, the world, as I said, is there's really nothing to do in terms of exploration. There's no meaningful things to find in the world. I mean, you have the same copy paste camps all around. You go in, you have a checklist objective. Oh, kill two captains, kill one commander, loot four chests, and leave. And it's the same thing over and over again. I think one of the things that was kind of enjoyable, I think, would be the papyrus puzzles because they wouldn't just reveal everything to you. You find the papyrus, and then you read what it says, and then you actually have to go out and find the things, which was interesting. But apart from that, everything else I think was just done very, very just it's very basic. There's not much in the way of it. Think of it as Far Cry 2 and Far Cry 3. Far Cry 2 was very grounded in reality, but it was also it felt like you were actually going out and exploring the world when you were doing it. But in Far Cry 3, it feels more like you're going out, you're playing a game, you're clearing a map. That's what it feels like, and that's also what it feels like with the Origins. However, when we come to the combat, right? The combat was revamped in this game, uh, and they sort of followed a Witcher 3 or Dark Souls type, hitbox based system, which some people say isn't nice, and the older format was good, and some people say, oh, Ghost of Tsushima did combat the best, and Assassin's Creed should have followed that. I think both are wrong because when we talk about combat, right? Sure, Ghost of Tsushima's combat might look a bit more realistic, but it's also not. not that fun. It's boring once you get the hang of it. It's I think of Ghost of Tsushima's combat as an upgraded version of the Kenway games. The combat, because it's although the combat in Ghost of Tsushima isn't, it's not like the Kenway games where you counter and then you attack and an animation plays, but for the most part it is kind of that. It is a little bit more engaging, but that's it. The combat, I think, became better over time. Say in Odyssey, although the enemies are damage sponges, I think the combat does get better with the parrying system. The fact that they remove the shields in Odyssey, I think, is very, very helpful because in Origins, all you have to do is hit the left bumper and Bike would just hold a shield up and you could dodge any heavy attacks by just unlimited dodging, which was kind of stupid. But the combat isn't the worst. However, I think the parrying is the worst in Origins. But that's whatever. You don't really care. It was the first iteration of this style of combat in Assassin's Creed, so I guess everyone sort of forgave it. Um, but when we talk about how it is in terms of like an assassin standpoint, right? Because everyone thinks Origins is the perfect blend of the new style and the old style. Which wait, hold up, new style, old style, new whatever. The Origins is not exactly okay. I keep right. So, Origins is not what Assassin's Creed should have been as an RPG. Odyssey is not either. However, Origins I think did more damage because it sort of led us down this path which separated the fan base, and Odyssey divided the fan base further. So when you talk about the world of Origins, people love it from a surface level. Exploration is not really. It was never one of Origin's strongest suits. I don't think anyone played Origins and just, you know, felt like they were actually exploring the world. I mean, on your first playthrough, sure, you see these new areas and you might think, yeah, you're exploring, but you're not exactly exploring because the map sort of has everything out there for you anyway. Odyssey, let's not talk about Odyssey. But I think Valhalla did fix this because since it was worked on by the same team, I think they learned from their mistakes in 2017 and they made a lot of improvements for 2020. Now, so we spoke about the world and the combat a little bit we spoke about, but I think one of the things that we need to speak about is the game design. Now I spoke about this a little bit when I mentioned the copy paste camps, but that's not the extent to which the copy paste and the laziness in the game design goes, because when we talk about the quests, right, the side quests, you have a lot of side quests in this game, a lot. Now, that would have been fine if it wasn't for the fact that every side quest was pretty much the same thing. Go to this camp, rescue this person from whatever, or go here. And also, when you go to rescue a person, they're always injured, so you can never just like break open the cage and just like lead them out. You have to go in there, you have to pick them up, and you have to get them out. You put them on the ground, and the ragdoll is terrible because you put them on the ground and they're dead, and then they all of a sudden they come back to life again and they stand up when you speak to them, and it's stupid. Anyway, so let's talk about the action RPG stuff, right? So since this was obviously a sort of a shift in paradigm, as my friend would say, it did take a lot from The Witcher 3, and I think it was fresh. It was new. I think for the series and for the people that play the series, it was new and it was fresh. However, it still could have been a lot better because Origins. What Origins did was they took, for example, the hidden blade. You couldn't assassinate someone, just outright. You had to upgrade your hidden blade, which at the time a lot of people defended. They said, yes, this is good. It brings a lot of challenge. But that's stupid, though. I mean, a knife goes through you, you should be dead, but for some reason you're not. And people say that Origins was the best blend of the old style and the new style. However, Origins clearly discouraged you from stealth. I mean, if you had to upgrade your hidden blade, buy all these materials, and with the max upgrade you could have with the hidden blade, you couldn't assassinate an enemy that was like two or maybe more than two levels above you. So it it really discouraged exploration in that sense that you couldn't if you even explore the world, you would enter areas where enemies would be way higher level than you, and if you got into conflict with them, well, you're dead, you're over. It ruins the experience. But that's not the worst part. I mean, of course, as I said, stealth, you can't use stealth because you go to assassinate an enemy, the knife goes in his throat, but then he just pushes you back and he fights you and he kills you. And that's fantastic. People love that because people, for some reason, love Origins. Now, I'm not saying you have to hate Origins, it's just that it doesn't get a lot of things right. The exploration, as I said, is terrible because everything is very surface level. The combat is decent, but that's about it. The quests are very open-ended, which is nice because in the older games, if you even made the slightest mistake, oh, you let a person out of your sight while telling them, or maybe you got detected in an area where you weren't supposed to be detected, the game just continues. Like the quest just evolves. Maybe you were tailing someone in Origins and you lose them, you can find them again. However, the tailing in Origins is terrible. We don't even have to talk about that. Uh, so from an action RPG standpoint, I think Origins is, how do I even say this? Because it's not like it it makes you feel like you kind of are this Magi in ancient Egypt, but then it falls flat because it's not really that great. The immersion isn't that great either because you can't sit on benches, you can't interact with the crowd. There's nothing at all, no social stealth, nothing. But somehow this is supposed to be the best Assassin's Creed game with the new formula. I don't understand how that makes any sense, but yeah, you tell me. Now, the let's talk about how this game sort of fits in with the series, right? This legacy of games that we've had. How does it fit into the series, and how does it sort of honor or maybe develop the lore further? So the game starts off with this sort of like a short cutscene. You see Bayek and you see Aya and Khemu, and then you see Ptolemy and you see the two or three like order members behind him, which you see for like 2 seconds, and then that's it. They're gone. And it just flashes forward, and then we stop at one point. But that's weird because usually, okay, so this is really weird because people defend this game and say it's a very good game. Okay, sure, but there's a thing that literally the first game established, and that was sometimes when you couldn't just start off in a memory and fast forward. You had to start off in for some for example, there were memories where you you start off somewhere. For example, in AC1, right? They try to reach one of the later memories, but they can't. So they start back. They go back and they start from a memory where they can, sort of access, and they move forward. But in Origins, you you start from the beginning, right? So you start from the beginning. Oh wait, hold up. I'm very confused with the order here. So you start from the beginning here, like you did in AC1. You start here, and then you're supposed to go here. But in Origins, you start here, and you go here, and then you play the game like this, and then you go here, and then you do this, and then you're here again. So you see how that's, I'm getting so confused right now. So this, I don't know what's going on. But yes, the story is very confusing. The story is okay. The story isn't that confusing, but it's very predictable. It's very predictable, and it's basic to the point where when Khemu dies, when Bayek plunges that knife through Khemu's chest, what you would expect to happen soon is Bayek would blame himself for Khemu's death, which he kind of does to an extent, but that's never sort of developed on more, because he blames himself, but then he also blames the Order. So who do you blame? Was it your fault, or was it their fault? So Bayek is a very confused character. He he does something that I like to refer to as 180. He 180s on his character all the time. In Memphis, when you have that dream sequence and a Bayek sort of Camus whispers something to Bayek and Bayek says something and then he hugs him and he lets him go. That's the point where you think Bayek has sort of let go of his revenge, and from this point on he only wants to go after the order, for for the good of the people, for justice, well, not for justice, but like, well, yeah, justice, I guess you could say. Instead of vengeance, it's justice. But no, he doesn't. In the end, he goes to kill Flavius, but then he can't kill Flavius because he just can't do it. But then when he went to kill Eudorus, who was the snake, who he thought was the snake, but he was the hippo. So Bayek had no problem killing Eudorus, but then he couldn't kill Flavius because he was afraid he would he would have nothing to do with Khemu anymore. Um, yeah, no, that doesn't make any sense at all. As does most of the game. So also, yes, legacy, right? Legacy, one of the most important parts of Assassin's Creed. How is the modern day character related to Bayek? Nothing. There's no relation at all. Layla has nothing to do with Bayek. She just happens to be in Egypt. She just happens to have, she just happens to be of like Middle Eastern descent. I don't know. But the fact of the matter is, she has nothing to do with Bayek, and the modern day is disappointing. I mean, sure, you could say it was setting something up, but setting up what? It doesn't set up anything. Odyssey doesn't take that forward. Valhalla at least tries to honor Origins and Odyssey, which is great in its own way, I suppose, but it's still not enough. Now, the assassins have existed for a long time, way before Bayek has, because Darius was an assassin. He, of course, his blade was one of the first recorded uses of a hidden blade. However, did Origins mention that? Yeah, yeah. Oh, Aya just casually mentions, yeah, this was a blade that killed the tyrant Xerxes. That's it. That's it. There's no assassins before Bayek. Bayek sort of creates the assassins who are known as the Hidden Ones. Oh dear God, what a terrible name. But anyway, that's Assassin's Creed Origins. I loved this game when it came out, but you know what? Over time, I realized there are blatant flaws that people just choose to ignore or can't see, and instead they say, "Oh, Origins is the best of the new RPG games, of the new RPG AC games," but it's not. And if you think otherwise, that's cool. I'm not saying you can't like Origins. I'm just saying that I don't like Origins, and I don't think it's the best of the new Assassin's Creed games. It's a good game in its own way, I suppose, but it's not a good Assassin's Creed game, and that's what I have to say. So yeah, I'll see you in the next video.